Why showing up on YouTube finally feels effortless? Well, let me tell you, it has everything to do with a fashion course that I started last year because it showed me the energy I want to create from. So, about like 3, 4 months ago, I saw this ad that said that they were opening up spaces, not just for kids, but also for adults to learn how to create their own fashion. And the teacher was someone that actually went to school and, had a proper degree on how to, not just make fashion, but work on making her own patterns, how to use, the sewing machine, etc., etc. And so I felt instantly when I saw that ad, I was like, whoa, like, I love that. The little girl in me was like I could just feel this little whoop, this little jump for joy. And so I applied and I started I think the next week already. And what I noticed is a few things. I noticed that even though I was eager to learn, I had this joy in the process of just letting it just happen. Like it wasn't like this destination feeling of I need to have this perfect whatever I want to create. It started really simple. We started to sketch, and the first assignment was just pick what you want to wear, pick what you want to create first. And for me, it was a skirt because I love wearing skirts. I live in Mexico, and it's basically always summertime, and I wanted to wear something, or I wanted to make something that I know I'm going to wear a lot. And so I already picked, okay, it's gonna be a skirt. And then we start to learn how to sketch, how to make that. And from that sketch, we start to make a pattern, etc., etc. And so every phase, I was learning new things. And one day we even went to a local shop where they sold all kinds of fabrics. And I ended up picking the one for my skirt. And I also remember creating a skirt basically based off of my two favorite skirts that I already have. So one part was I loved the ruffles that the skirt had, and I wanted to add more ruffles for mine. And then the other skirt that I really love, it had buttons, and I really liked that as well, where it kind of opened. And so based on those two designs, I kind of like merged them into one and created something unique out of it. During the class, obviously you're still a student, right? So you're learning new things, but I just noticed that every time I was working on the machine or, like even if it was drawing out the sketches, there was this meditative state that I was in. And I really enjoyed it so much that I felt like those 2 hour blocks that we had every week, they just flown by. Eventually, I had a very difficult pattern, and so it took a little bit more time for mine to finish. But so all the other students that were there, we had a class of four. They already started with a new project, or they finished and start the holidays. So for me, it was the interesting part of understanding, like, hey, I don't even feel the need to rush, because I'm enjoying this process so much. I wish I could create from this energy everything, like my business, like anything, because I felt this presence that I have during those classes, and it was addictive, it was soothing, it was completely like full of surrender and joy and playfulness. So even if I would make a mistake, and honestly it didn't really happen that often, but even if I would, every time, and even if it was another student, the teacher would show us how you can fix that problem. Like it could be a machine that got blocked, or it could be, missing some, like the right stitch or something. And even that process of redoing it and knowing how to fix it, I just completely surrendered to that. And it made me think because I really was like, this is actually how I want to create everything else that I pursue and want to do, also in business. I started to notice not just that energy that I was in, but I also noticed how if you don't have the clarity, but you just pick something, you create a container, right? So if you have like everything in the world that you can create, that's huge. That's like impossible for you to actually focus and get something done. But because we really had to build a container of, okay, let's just focus on a skirt, and then really get to the nitty gritty of it. Like, okay, what's gonna be, like the model of the skirt, and what's gonna be the fabric, and do I want to add like elastic, or do I want to do it with buttons, or with a zipper? Like all these little things, they come eventually as you create. And I'm like, I think one of the reasons why I had a hard time starting when it comes to YouTube is because I was constantly seeking for some kind of clarity, some kind of, like, I almost want to say reassurance that it's all going to be good and fine. And the energy that I had with the fashion course was completely opposite. It was like you just pick something and that's where you focus on. And next time you can pick something else, or maybe you want to do something similar. But it was more that playfulness of you don't have to stick to that. And obviously that works for YouTube too. But I never really felt it that way. There was more control and more force. And I think it had a lot to do with the fact that it's public, right? People see you, people get to judge what you're doing. Um, but because I tapped into that energy in the fashion course, it was really my own desire. Like, whatever I do, I want to do this from this energy. And I want to take that energy with everything that I do. And so I didn't really focus on YouTube in that period. It was something that kind of shaped and moved more towards the end of the year, where I was like, I really want to do this and take this more serious. In the past year, for the entire year, I published around 11 or 12 videos. It was 11. And right now, I'm actually recording my 14th video. And today is the 14th of January 2026. Just to give you an idea, I've been showing up every day, and I felt like it has become so effortless. Actually, the first moment, even doing it in the new year, felt effortless. And the reason for that being is because I'm creating from a different energy. I'm not creating from, oh, I need to create content. It's something that I honestly have been struggling with from day one. Like the idea of you having to do content felt like a performance. It felt like a force. It didn't feel authentic. It felt like, oh, then I have to work ahead of time and, script and think of titles. And there are a lot of people that work that way and it works for them, but it just didn't work for me. A part of me was rebellious against it, and therefore it never really worked. But because I went and just followed that little bliss of joy that I felt when I saw that ad about, this fashion course starting, and I just went for it, I tapped into that energy that I didn't know existed. It was probably the energy that I had as a kid, but I just never really, remembered it until now of, this is what it feels like to just play. This is what it feels like to just play with that energy of creative force energy without looking for the perfection, like the perfect like final result. And the funny thing is this, once I finished the skirt, which I actually wore a few times ever since it is finished, I never felt that feeling of pride or anything. And you would think, like, working for a few months on this project, and it was my first project, and even my teacher was like, Ash, you're really talented, because it's a very high-end level sketch that you created, and it's not easy to do. There are a lot of different techniques that you need to use to make it. And this is the first time you're using the machine. Like, this is really impressive. But apart from that, I never felt that, because it was never about the end result for me eventually, because that's kind of how I felt it. It was really the process and really enjoying the process. And I'm like, wow. And I really feel that same thing here right now with YouTube. In the beginning, when I started this year with the intention of I'm gonna show up every day as a form of art, and my expression is the art form. I was very intentional about that part. Like, I want to create, and I don't feel like I could ever have a writer's block or a talking block. You can always talk, and I don't think you could ever really have a block when you talk. And so it became like a no BS So, whereas like, no, I'm going to show up every day. It doesn't matter what happens. I'm going to show up. And in the beginning, I wanted to do it early in the morning or as early as possible, as the first thing that I do, because I wanted to avoid life happening in between. But it was still a part of me kind of controlling the outcome, afraid that, I might not do it. But now, it's already 2 weeks now. I'm like, no, it's like 4 o'clock now in the afternoon. And I did all kinds of stuff way before even doing this because I'm like, well, it's non-negotiable. I'm still gonna show up. And I really feel more relaxed about this process because I'm like, because it's just a part of who I am. I always express, I always talk. And it's so natural to me. And so for the people watching, the reason why showing up on YouTube became so effortless for me is because I changed the narrative from you have to perform or I have to do it perfect or um, you know, life is so busy, but it's just something I kind of have to squeeze in. And all kinds of, objections and maybe even targets that you can put on it. I don't know. But I just made it playful. I'm like, I want to express. I want to see what's alive in me every day. I want to see what comes out. And maybe sometimes it will be a harder time for me to express. Maybe it won't. But either way, it's fine. And that's the energy that I had in that fashion course. And going back to that fashion course, so the reason I started about that fashion course today is because today was the first day back after the Christmas holiday because we had a long stop. And I was debating, like, do I even want to re-enroll? Do I want to start a new series? And then I was like, what am I going to create then? And I instantly was like, I have so many items in my closet that I don't wear because it either is, like I've worn it so many times that I kind of get bored, or it was just, something that I kind of loved when I bought it, but don't love anymore. We all have those items in the closet. And so I started to collect them and I had this bag and it was full with all these clothes. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to recycle. I'm going to give them new life. I'm going to either, from a kimono, maybe create a skirt, or I'm going to this top, this is why I'm wearing it. Today, I took this with me in the classroom and I never was able to really wear this. I only wore it once because it was constantly falling off. And I knew it needed some elastic. So today I brought it into class, I opened everything, and then I seamed this elastic in it, and then I closed it on both sides, and now I can wear it. And that is why I felt inspired today to talk about, this fashion course. It is not about the fashion course. It is really about how when you follow these little blisses and moments of joy, which has nothing to do with me starting YouTube or running a business or how I want to run businesses, etc. But how that reconnected me to an energy that I intentionally wanted to bring into my projects, and how I really feel like I'm thriving because of it, and how whatever, because there are many things that I had to shed before really being able to commit to YouTube, but this was one of it. And really going over that hurdle of that, I don't want to do content creation, like that. So yeah, and now it's not. Now it's just a form of art, it's expression, and it's really who I am. It's close to who I am. And that's why I wanted to share this topic with you guys to give you that insight. Maybe it will help you guys too when you start projects to, do something completely different that has nothing to do with it, and to feel that energy, because you actually have to experience it, to just work with your hands, to tune your mind off and be in that moment in the presence, and not have that urge of I need to have the perfect result. And I think that's actually what I wanted to say about the skirt. The weird thing is, it turned out beautiful. I wore it a few times, but I never felt that proud of, oh, wow, I made this. People commented like, oh my God, I love your skirt. I was like, yeah, I made it. And they were like flabbergasted that I made it. And I was like, yeah, and it's my first piece. And I even had a friend who was like, Ash, I want to buy it. Like it's so beautiful. But nothing in me desires to be a fashion designer. Like that's not like, I love working with my hands. I always loved, like when I never played with dolls, but when I would get dolls from family members or whoever wanted to give me that, I started to make clothes for them. And so I knew that part I loved, and I loved the idea of just, recycling my closet. I'm a minimalist, and I don't need a lot of stuff. I love to refund new things and just reuse whatever I already have. And so I like the idea of being able to alter my own things, or if I want, make something, create something, if I specifically want something. And now I can, now I have the skill set, now I'm learning the skill set. But the ambition was never, oh, I want to be a fashion designer. And who knows, maybe someday. But the whole point was to do something that just removes the idea of I have to do it perfect. And because of that, I tap into an energy that is now helping me to thrive. And that's why I really felt that I wanted to share it with you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you tomorrow on a new episode. Ciao, ciao.